good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you happen to be listening. I am super excited for today's episode. I have this wonderful young woman on the show today. She reached out to me on LinkedIn, just newish to the industry, trying to build her network, trying to just connect and get to know people and really get to understand all different facets of the industry. And I'm going to tell you that the energy and the connection felt really instantaneous when we hopped on Zoom. And so it felt like a very natural choice to just have her come on the show and give a perspective from somebody that's in a different part of the industry, doing some different things, just lots of excitement about the career that she's going to continue developing in. So I am excited to introduce you all to Kaylee Chappelow. She is the manager of business development at Risk Genius, and she's got some stories to tell about that as well. So welcome to the show, Kaylee. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's a great fall Monday morning. We just were talking earlier. It's nice and cozy. So excited to get things kicked off.
Yes. So coffee, blankets, fall foliage, if you can see it. We've got all of the elements. Yes, sweaters.
It's all here.
We have all the elements of a beautiful fall day going on here. So I got to know a little bit about your backstory, where you came from, how you got to Risk Genius when we had our original conversation, but would just love to talk about that a little bit. Also, you're a Kansas City native. Are you a big Kansas City barbecue fan? Do you do all those things?
Yes. Love a good Kansas City barbecue restaurant. We have so many options. So I always get asked, what's my favorite? I love Oklahoma Joe's. They have just a great selection, and it just feels like homegrown. I also like Jack Stack. It's a little more fancy, I would say, but definitely a good selection as well. So yes, the barbecue scene is amazing. So if you ever need some good barbecue, come on up.
That's right. So, and then you guys have the Chiefs. So you're reigning Super Bowl champions, which has got to be pretty exciting. I hear that parade was pretty intense.
Yeah, the Chiefs are just such a big part of our community. It's been so great watching them have this, come up in this era and really hone in on just doing really well the last few years. And it's all, I love Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, obviously Travis Kelce's. We just have some big personalities that really get people excited about Kansas City. And I feel like it's helped put us on the map even more. So yeah, really exciting watching the Chiefs, excited for the game tonight. It's at 4 p.m. So we're going to try to work and watch the game at the same time, I guess. But yeah, the Bills are really good this year. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So yeah, we do. I know there's a big fan of the Bills in the industry. And so I do know of one person that will be cheering against your team tonight, Kaylee, but it has been exciting, even as a non-Chiefs fan, to watch Mahomes really develop in his quarterback role. And so, yeah. And I just love a good football game. I'm excited for Big Ten to start up. I love a good weekend of football and cleaning and eating, tailgate food.
Yeah, just having it on in the background too on Saturdays is really fun. We grew up like that in my house. And yes. Patrick Mahomes, he's just such a good leader too. And he's so fun to watch. Like you were saying, he just makes for a good game. You never know when he's going to just jump out of the pocket and shoot a sidearm pass to Travis Kelce. So it's really fun to watch. It's been fun to watch them.
Yeah. So then are you a Royals fan as well?
I am a Royals fan. I don't know a lot about baseball. I love to watch, but I can't really tell you any more than that. The games are really fun. They were terrible growing up. And then when I got into college, they won, the World Series, obviously. And so it was just funny because growing up, we would pay for $7 tickets in high school and sit in the nosebleeds. And it was I just have such good memories at the K. So it's a really fun place to be. I've also gotten to know Joel Goldberg a lot. He's one of the announcers and the broadcasters. And he's just such an iconic character in Kansas City, and he's such a good person, and he's poured into me a little bit, so I appreciate that relationship. So I feel closer to the Royals because of Joel as well. So
yeah, that's amazing. Wow Talk about some great connections within your community, and now you're branching out, connecting in the industry, which I'm sure you're finding, well, I guess you can give me your thoughts on this. It's a small industry, but it's huge as well. Like it has like the elements of both all at once.
Yeah, I even felt that so I started at Lockton, and so I was an intern in college and then started when I got there. And yeah, everyone knows everyone. And then even in my 3 years at Lockton, I would get 3 different business cards from someone who had switched around. And so it was just, yeah, it's very small. Everyone knows each other. And I've felt that even in my networking journey, right? Like everyone's introducing me to these awesome women, and you all know of each other because of LinkedIn. And also I would say in the insurtech space, particularly, there's this connection and I guess web of women and men that exists. So it's definitely, yeah, a small but mighty group.
Yeah. And I used the web analogy last week in a presentation as well. Like I just feel like you just watch it continue to just grow and grow and grow, but you recognize like the closeness and the support that comes within the industry. But just the variety of opportunity is it's just tremendous. It's crazy. It's just absolutely amazing to see the level of anything that you want to do, you can do within the insurance space.
Yeah, and it's so weird because I had no idea that the insurance industry was a thing growing up,
Yeah.
and I actually went to college at Missouri State in Springfield, and there was a risk management program, and I had no idea it even existed. And so when I came to Lockton, everyone's like, "Oh, were you in risk management? I bet you know so much." And I was like, "Joke's on you," because I didn't even know what that was. So I was a sales major. I'm here to learn, but I had no idea that the insurance industry was a thing. But it really is its own ecosystem, and there's so many facets. It's really crazy. And there are so many pieces, right? Like the carrier side, the broker, the agent, but then this whole insure tech vendor side also. So yeah, you can definitely find a place. I'm always telling my friends, I'm like, if you guys want to quit your day jobs, come over to the insurance industry because it's a lot of fun and it's centered around people, which is the best part.
Right. Exactly. Oh, I feel like you like stole my line. This is what I always say. I'm like, I think that's why I've stayed in it for as long as I have, because it really doesn't matter which part of the industry you choose to work in or where you choose to move in the industry. It all comes back to serving the customer better. And
Mhm.
whoever that customer may be, it's just about the growth and the advancement and just being a better industry. And I love that. And so when I look at you and I see like, oh my gosh, like I was 22 when I came into the industry, but I didn't know what I was coming into, and I didn't know why or what that was going to mean. But then it's like trying to get other, like the next generation, interested in the industry. I mean, I'm not going to say how much older I might be than you, but there might be a little bit of a generational gap between me and you. So it's very exciting to me. And then just to see your energy and enthusiasm for what you do, like it's so renewing. Like I just absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you had 3 years at Lockton. When did you make the switch over to Risk Genius, and what's going on with Risk Genius these days?
Funny you should ask. Yeah. So I made the transition about a year ago. So I had a great time at Lockton. I learned a lot. They have this culture that's centered around intellectual curiosity, which was perfect for me. That's something that I would say is the biggest strength of mine, is asking questions and learning. And it's actually funny because when I was in second grade, I got told that I couldn't ask over a certain number of questions by my second grade teacher, and was like devastated. And all of a sudden now, fast forward to my career, that's one of my biggest strengths that people see. So it's just kind of ironic. And I wish I could have told that little second grader, like, it's okay, ask those questions, because that's something that is so valuable. So I had a great time at Lockton, but I always knew I wanted to go into sales. And that's what my major was. I worked at Champ Sporting Goods in high school and sold
Okay.
shoes. And in Girl Scouts, I sold the most Girl Scout cookies and won our troop a trip to Great Wolf Lodge. So I've always just been into sales. And at the broker level, it's hard. You have to have either a saturated personal network or an established book of business to really get off the ground. So I had met Risk Genius through a little, like a POC we had done with them at Lockton. And I was like, hey, what they're doing is cool. The people are awesome. It was actually a year after I had met them that I got some random email, which they don't even know how I was on the email list for, but they said, they were hiring for like a marketing and sales role. And so I reached out, and it was a little bit of a sticky situation because Risk Genius was like, hey, Lockton's one of our biggest prospective clients. Like, we're not trying to poach anyone. Like, that's not our vibe. And I was like, hey, I know that. And, the people at Lockton will understand that too. They just want what's best for me. And I need to try the sales thing. So I had a great mentor at Lockton. We're still really close. And he was like, hey, I can tell that something's itching inside you and you need to do this. So burn the ships at the port, go do this. We still have a great relationship. If something happens, you can always come back. The door's always open. So that's kind of what I needed. And that I learned a lot during that situation. But that's kind of how I got to Risk Genius. I was in like a customer success role for a while. I sort of had to sell myself internally for a sales role. So they knew that I was interested in sales, but they were a startup and they just had one chief sales officer and they were looking to hire on the East Coast. So they did hire someone on the East Coast. I was part of that interview process. And the whole time I was thinking, okay, I can do this. Like, I know these job qualifications now. Like, we have a really robust interview process where we get to interview as peers, which is really cool. And I've learned a lot during that anyways, just about interviewing and, what to say, what not to say, what people are looking for. But I was like, I can do this. I have the strength. I have the strengths that are necessary to do this role. So I reached out to our CEO and I was like, hey, I'm interested in sales. And I sort of got on this journey of proving myself in prospective client situations with my insurance industry experience. So getting brought in on large prospective deals where I could talk to excess towers or different things that maybe other people at Risk Genius didn't have the experience in. So then I sort of worked my way and our chief sales officer, I came to him and he's like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to come back and tell me you wanted to be in sales again. So let's do this thing, which I appreciate that he did that because he didn't want to poach me from my current team. And he knew that the drive had to come from inside. Like, he knew it had to come from me. So anyways, that was kind of my journey to sales. But then, so I've been doing that now for a few months, probably 6 months. And a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that we were acquired by Bold Penguin. So I know you're familiar with Bold Penguin.
Yes.
So they are a great insurtech. They're really big in the commercial exchange space. So they're focused on speedy and efficient quote to bind, and to particularly, in the small business sector. So it's funny because we really go together like peanut butter and jelly, because they're doing stuff on the front end and then we're helping Risk Geniuses on the back end analyze those policy documents and helping people understand what's in their form. So it's really, we're tackling the whole insurance life cycle. So we go really well together.
Yeah, which is amazing. I think it's something that to have that all fit under one umbrella is going to be a fun thing to see, how you guys are leveraging both of your strengths as a company to really create that better experience that we talked about earlier. I mean, because regardless of how much a client pays for their policy, being able to really understand what's in there and if it is really what they think it is it's one of those things that I feel like is kind of missing right now, unless somebody's really, it's very manual right now.
Yeah, it's so important. And it feels like we sort of complete the other piece of the puzzle for them, because you have to have both. You have to have both pieces for it to make sense.
Yeah. So it's exciting. And I love seeing like those partnerships come to life. And it's not anything that, I mean, obviously there's somebody at Bold Penguin and somebody at Risk Genius that obviously was like, hey, yeah, this makes sense. But it's like, it's funny to see all of those different stories evolve on the individual level and on the company level. And you look at it and sometimes you go, well, that's an unlikely pairing. And then like you watch the pieces come together and you're like, oh, but this feels like so obvious. Like when you explain it, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. It was like you were made for one another.
Yeah. And it's been really fun to interact with the Bold Penguin folks already. And it's just, there's such an alignment culturally, which is huge, right? So they have these things called daily waddles where we get on and just, like penguins get to know and have a little bit of background, and they're playing like fun songs in the background. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And this reminds me so much of the culture at Risk Genius. So it brings a lot of comfort to, an employee going through this acquisition process, knowing there's that alignment. And I've gotten to interact with the founders as well, and the sales team, and the leadership is incredible. So I'm really excited about the partnership.
Yeah. I always think Ilya Bodner looks like Simon Sinek.
That is so funny.
I don't know how many people,
Yeah.
how publicly I've ever stated this, but the first time I met him, I was like, Simon Sinek here? Like, I was just like, well, this is kind of random. And they're like, that is not Simon Sinek.
That's funny. I hope he hears this episode and
Yeah.
now know your stance on that.
Yes. So he could moonlight at least as his brother or something.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe go for his Halloween costume or something.
Yes, for sure. It would be so easy. Simple, done. Just get dressed and go out. So when you look at obviously you've had, a short time in the industry, but I feel like you're already walking away with so much valuable experience. Like you're in it and like you soak it up. Like my impression of you immediately was like you're a sponge and you're just like you're trying to like take in as much as you can and learn about as much of the industry. And so it's just, it's fascinating. I love the energy. But when you look back at either, your upbringing up to now, or even the time that you've been in the industry, what's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, I would say a couple. One is you have to advocate for yourself. And I think as women, we feel like we have to have all of these qualifications and we don't want to be annoying or rude or pushy. And I just getting to know me, you can tell I'm a very direct, loud person. And so I've always felt a little bit insecure that, hey, I am a little bit more pushy or direct. And I'm learning that that's actually a really big skill of mine because ultimately we are all human and we're all selfish and we all are really advocating for ourselves at the end of the day. So you have to advocate for yourself. You're the only person that knows who you are and what you bring to the table. And you have to push for that. So I've seen that play out just in my, in my schooling and in my career. So for college, for example, like I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew I was going to be paying for most of it. My parents helped me some, but I was like, okay, I need to advocate for myself. I need to get involved in AP classes and, organizations. And I was able to get 44 hours of college credit done before I left high school. So I was able to graduate in 3 years, which has put me ahead tremendously in my career. Having an extra year of learning, like what I learned at Lockton the first year is just insane, like about life, about how to actually practically be in the business world. Like, where do I sit when I go into a board meeting and there's people everywhere? And what do I talk to the CEO in the elevator about? Like those kind of things I learned in that first year. So advocating for yourself, and even in little things in life. Like I read this fact on LinkedIn one time and it was like, women never negotiate their annual, women never negotiate their annual fee for their credit card. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done that. Like I never would think to do that.
Never even occurred to me.
Yeah. So I call my credit card company and I'm like, hey, I'm looking at switching other options in the market. And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Click. And they come back on the phone. They're like, yep, your annual fee is waived. So it's just little things like that. Like, of course, the credit card company is not going to call me and say, hey, are you thinking about switching to Discover? Do you want me to waive your fee? Like you have to advocate for yourself and push for yourself. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing is, you're never going to feel like you're 100% ready to do something, but you should just do it. And again, I think this goes back to being women. The book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg is like one of my favorites. And it talks about how men go into an interview with 5 out of the 10 criteria met for the job description and feel like they're a shoo-in. Yep. And women have 9 out of 10 and won't even apply because they don't have all 10 and they feel like they should have 12 out of 10 to even be qualified to apply. And that's just not the case. Women, we bring a lot to the table and we have to remember and have confidence in ourselves. So when I switched to sales, our CEO, Chris Cheatham, he's a really big mentor of mine, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I was watching him demo and I was learning more of our carrier product. And all of a sudden he's like, all right, you're going to demo next. The next one is all you. And I was like, what? No, I need 14 more practices. I need to watch you. I need to do this and this. And he's like, no, you're ready. That's all he said. He was very brief and said, you're ready. And he passed it over to me and I did it. And then I became this weird demo machine where I did like demos insanely amount, like a lot of demos for like 3 months. And I'm just thankful that he saw that I had that doubt in myself and corrected that. And he's like, no, you are ready. You've got this. And he was absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how, like, I love this idea of advocating for yourself, which is something that took me a really long time to learn. And it's a life practice. Like it's very easy to start taking a back seat,
Yeah.
and not being your own advocate. But you really can't wait for somebody else to like tell you who you are. Or I mean, you can, but then you're going to have a pretty skewed definition of what that is. So yeah, so I feel like I was probably definitely in my 30s before it was like I really started exploring what that meant to really like stand up for myself and represent who it was, my own ambitions. And even if I wasn't 100% clear on those things, just knowing like there was something else that I was interested in and I should give myself the space to explore that and really work on it. Have you read the book, That's What She Said?
No. Is it good?
It's so fantastic. So it ties in a lot of what, Sheryl Sandberg says in Lean In. But it's this amazing book about how, women don't speak up in meetings and all of this kind of stuff. But it's also, it talks a lot about the fact that, and you've alluded to this a lot as you've been talking about your career. This isn't all about just like women doing something and men doing another thing. This is about really coming to the table together and working together to be better. And so she talks a lot about how men and women communicate differently. Like that's just how it is. But it really takes both of us in order for everybody to move forward better. And so I love that you talk about, like you're obviously very driven and you have a lot of ambition and energy, but you've had a lot of great men in your career so far that have really encouraged you and just kind of highlighted things that maybe you weren't noticing on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been my favorite part of my journey is I've had both male and women mentors because they have different perspectives, like you said, and we have to know that we are created very differently, and that's for the better of everyone. Like if the world was a bunch of women, we would be emotional all the time, and there would just be a lot of things wrong with that. And same with men, so I think that there has to be this balance of bringing different perspectives. Also, I think I bring a different perspective because of my age, right? Like I'm 24. I have that Gen Z. Someone at work the other day was making like a Gen Z joke. And I was like, wait a sec, don't forget, I'm a Gen Z. Like, don't be fooled. I'm not a millennial. I'm like right at the beginning of the Gen Zers. So I think also bringing different perspectives based on your background and your generation and all of that really comes together to get that full picture at the table.
Yeah. And I think we have more generations active in the workforce. Insurance is not excluded from this by any means at all whatsoever. And so being able to recognize that value of every single, whether it's the value of experience of somebody that's been doing this for 40 years. My mentor, my biggest mentor in my career she was in the industry for 40 years. She's forgotten more than I'm ever going to understand about insurance. But there were other things, like she and I talk weekly, and we still talk about like at first she was like, I don't know who this 22-year-old girl is rolling up in here. And then as our relationship evolved, it was like, she was like, you challenged me in ways that I didn't expect. And so it's just, if we're willing to just kind of like let ego go, then we get to move so much further ahead, so much faster. So I think like if you sit there and you're like, I'm only going to work with women and I'm only going to do this, then you're probably not giving yourself all the opportunity that you should. But you've been very open to the process, and that's going to do very big things for you as you continue to develop in your career. So as you think about these mentors and all of these people that have probably contributed to where you are today, and you'll have so many more that enter your career as you go on, but like, who's made the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, I would say from a personal standpoint, I had a few people come to mind. Obviously, my parents. I think they did a great job teaching me responsibility and independence growing up. So I was making my own lunches and doing my laundry in elementary school and learning how to put money in envelopes with my allowance and putting money in my savings. Like they did a really good job shaping me to be the adult that I was. But they also, on the flip side, provided a lot of support and let me be me and explore things and be involved. I mean, I was involved in everything in high school, like DECA, student council, Wildcat TV. I did athletic training for a while, and I got to really figure out, okay, what is my niche and what do I want to do? And they supported me along the way. They helped me, financially and just emotionally when I was drained. They said, hey, Kaylee, take a step back. You need to learn how to say no. You can't do everything. So they were really crucial in my success. And I really am thankful for that balance. I thought they were hard on me at times, but it really wasn't. It was teaching me how to be an adult. That's your job as a parent, is to raise children who can like make it on their own. And they did that with me. So I really appreciate that. And I was the only one in my friend group in college who knew how to do their laundry. So it helped them out too when I got there. So my parents, and then there's a couple women that I met actually in school. So her name is Danica, and she's actually the only female high school principal, like head high school principal in the Blue Springs School District. And the first woman of color too, also to be a head principal.
Wow.
And she's awesome. And I do life with her family. So I just hang out with her kids and her husband and like at their house in the chaos. And she's so transparent with me about her marriage and how she parents. And I'm going to be a better mom and wife someday because of her. So she's definitely had an impact. And then there's a woman named Kelly. She was my DECA marketing teacher. So DECA is like a co-curricular marketing organization for high school students. I'm still involved in like a leadership director role for that organization. And her and I now, she went from being my teacher to my coach to now like my friend. And so she'll have me over again to her house in the chaos with her kids running around, and we'll just have a glass of wine and talk. And she's so passionate about what she does and for her students. And she's obviously making lifelong impacts, like mine included. And she's my biggest cheerleader still. She'll call me or text me and get coffee and wants to know what's going on in my life. So from a personal side, those people stand out. And then from a professional side, I'm thinking of just risk genius folks, Jeremy Smith and Chris Cheatham. So Jeremy is our COO, and then Chris is our CEO. And they're men and they're fun. And Jeremy is the smartest person I've ever met.
I was gonna say, both of those guys are, I mean, I guess I've only interacted with Chris, and I'm just like, this guy is so smart. Oh my God.
They're both geniuses. Like Chris was a former attorney. Jeremy came from like investment banking and has a really like a long track history of entrepreneurship. And when I'm around both of them, I just feel like I get smarter. And Jeremy, he is very fair. He's like, and that's what like a value of mine that I value most is fairness. And so he makes decisions not based on what people are going to think about him, but what's fair for everyone. And in turn, everyone likes him. So it's kind of ironic, but he does what's best for everyone. And Chris, he's really helped me like loosen up a bit. So have you ever taken the Enneagram?
Yes.
What are you? I'm curious.
I'm a 2.
Are you? I bet you're a wing 3. I bet.
I am.
Yeah. It's weird. So I'm really kind of obsessed with it, but I'm a 3 wing too. So it also makes sense because I feel like we're very similar.
Yeah.
But the 3, we're achievers. We go. We're driven, to-do list, goal-oriented, really hard on ourselves. And so I'll call Chris because he's helped me a lot in terms of my storytelling and my demo and my pitch. We work really closely together going after prospects. And he always will just be so weird or jokey and like help me loosen up and not be so hard on myself. So I've really appreciated him. And with all that's going on with the racial injustice stuff, I am a mixed person. And so he's really made it a point to reach out to me and make sure that I'm doing okay, because being, mixed, I've struggled with feeling qualified to talk about issues because I am half white, and that's always been to my advantage. So I've never felt like I could take a stand. And so I was having a really hard day when all of the protests broke out in Kansas City. The next day I was like crying at work. And another thing about 3s, we don't cry.
Yeah. Kaylee, I was there when the riots were going on.
You were in Kansas City?
Yeah. I was at a hotel going, what is happening here? Like, I didn't know how hard it had hit Kansas City.
Yeah, it was rough. And I live on the plaza, which is where everything was taking place. Yes. And I had people like my old high school principal, who I'm really close to, texted me and said, hey, are you okay? Like it was scary. And it rattled me to my bones and made me do a lot of reflection in terms of my identity. And I mean, to say that doesn't carry over to work is just, you're joking, because I mean, the next day I was a mess. And so I had a meeting with Chris, and he knew right away something was wrong. And we started talking about it, and he has done an incredible job still checking on me to this day, because he knows it's part of my identity and part of who I am. It doesn't just go away with time. And he's also done an incredible job of addressing like white fragility in his life and telling me what he's seeing, and he's trying to empathize, and him and his wife are trying to like educate their children. And so that just means more to me than than words than I can put into words, is just how much he's, taken an interest and made sure that he's making sure that I'm okay as a human. Before I can be okay at my job, I have to be okay as a human.
Yeah. Well, I think you are going to do amazing things when it comes to being a voice of diversity in the industry. And in fact, I got to make a note because there is somebody I want to make sure that I get you introduced to. No, got another person I need to make sure I get you connected with. I think you
Olivia, you're awesome because like what? I know we're going to get to the women thing, but you have been awesome. And I've just really enjoyed getting to know you, and you've connected me with awesome people already. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Oh, well, I mean, it's like when you reached out, I was like, this is what I wish the tools weren't necessarily there or prevalent when I was, new in the industry, but I love that you're looking at these as tools to be better at what you do. And not just that, like you're doing all of this tremendous stuff, which I'm like, God, I hope we can get to all of it, because it's just like being able to really bring people together. We can split, and we can really be in competition with one another in a really unhealthy way, but we can also compete and support at the same time. But there's a choice that has to be made there. Mm-hmm. And some people want to compete and gripe, and other people want to compete and help everybody grow. Just recognizing that a rising tide, raises, or what is that? A rising tide, something with ships. Oh my gosh. I'm like gonna, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Dang it. I'm getting worse at these sayings. But it's like, we have these decisions that we have to make. And I think there was a point in my career where you reaching out would have been super intimidating to me. And I would have been like, no, this is my network and you don't get to have them.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I've had so many amazing people come into life, and I hope that part of it is just that I've grown as a person, that I look at this and I go, oh my God, like my world is just so much bigger and richer. Mm-hmm. And the more people that I can just like bring into this warm, inviting place that I've gotten to be a part of, I love it. I love it. And so, yeah, if anybody that I can connect, I'm happy to do it. I've had so many people do the same thing for me. I would not be like doing anything that I'm doing if it weren't for networking and meaningful networking. I was hanging out with Sid Rowe over the weekend, and like recognizing like we have a lot of people in common. We have a lot of people that she knows and I don't know, and I know and she doesn't know, but like just getting to know people on a human level and a professional level is just like, this is the thing that life is about for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's like it reminds me of like a sports team. Like, yes, you're individually competing and you want to be the best you can be. And that healthy competition is good, right? Like mm-hmm. We should challenge each other. Like I want to challenge you and I want you to challenge me, but ultimately we win as a team, and our team is women. Our team is, just helping our clients. Like we're going to be better for everyone. And so I think it's a balance of that healthy competition, but also recognizing that we are a team also at the same time. Yeah. And another thing is, as I move up in my career, like you get to take selfishly some part in that, right? Like I'm going to look back. I'm going to say,
like, I knew you were when.
Yeah. I'm going to say, Olivia Schmidt, she helped me. Like she advocated for me. Like I'm going to be telling other women about you. So it's like, yes, it may seem a little bit like you're doing most of the giving in the beginning, because it's like, I'm like that sponge, I'm soaking things in, but I'm going to get so full as a sponge, and I'm going to have to, start dripping things out to other people. And part of that, dripping process is going to be talking about the women who've helped me succeed. And you're going to be on that list. So
I love that. That's amazing. I mean, it's just, but that's the power of what we get to do every single day. Like and I know you can probably find that in every industry, but like I only know the industry that I live in and play in. And so, yeah. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel, I can't even put it into words. What's that?
I said the best industry.
The best industry for sure. Yes, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to go back to something else that you said before, because it's so funny. You were talking about how when you'd get like overwhelmed with too many activities, and your parents really helped ground you and be like, okay, let's focus here. what needs to get, what needs to stay and what needs to give. And that is such a tremendous thing. I talk to my kids about it because I was not taught that. It was yes, 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 yes. And granted, I wasn't involved in a lot of activities. I'm not athletic, but it was like, I took on a lot of stuff that I wasn't prepared to handle. And then I continued. That was just a habit that I had then. And so now, and I literally wrote this in my journal this morning. I think my journal's down in the kitchen, but I was like, I am grateful for the power of no, because no means yes to something else. What's that?
I just got goosebumps when you said that.
Yeah. It's just like I am at a point in my life where I do weigh decisions. I don't like spontaneously do things. Like that's not, I think being a mom, it's a lot harder to do that kind of stuff, but just recognizing that if I'm saying yes, 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 and agreeing to everything, either something doesn't get done to the quality that it should, or I lose out on sleep, or my kids don't get to have the mom that they need to have. And so I can't show up equally for everybody if I'm saying yes to everything. And so in order for the things that are most important to me to get the best of me, I have to be willing to say no to certain things that are just not important. And so for me, it's really identifying what deserves a yes and what deserves a no. And it's like, it's something that like I kind of left this last weekend of spending time with Sid, of like just being willing to kind of slow down and think about those things a little bit more, because it is, I mean, you want to say yes, you want to be able to do all of the things, but it's not, we're humans.
Yeah. And people are asking you to say yes because they know that you're reliable and accountable, which is awesome. But you have to think about yourself also. Like I overcommitted myself to, it's really a story of my life, but I overcommitted myself and said I would be a part of another book study that was going on at my church. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm already reading 4 books. Like I'm doing all these things. I cannot do another book study. I don't want to go, and I am not going to be able to fully commit myself to it. And the whole time I'm going to be there, I'm going to be thinking about all the other things I have going on. And why am I scared to say no? It's because I don't want to let this person down. And I know, but deep down, I know that person loves me and they're my friend and they're going to understand. And so when I told her that I wasn't going to be able to do it, she said, hey, I'm really proud of you. I know you're working on saying no to things. So thank you for saying no to this. So that way you could not feel overwhelmed and say yes to other things. And another thing about the no thing that I've found is I'm trying to just block off evenings where I don't make plans, because I'm single. I have a lot of opportunity to say yes. Like when you're a mom, like you have to be selfless all the time because you are giving yourself to your children. And I can be a little bit selfish. So I have a lot of time, but I'm trying to leave some open rooms in my calendar, because like, what if a friend calls me and needs to talk, and that actually happened. Like I told myself, okay, Thursday, I'm not doing anything. And a friend from Atlanta called me a few weeks ago and was like, hey, I really need to talk about something. And I'm like, wow, you're in luck. I'm free. Normally I'd be like rushing around in the car trying to, talk to you for 5 minutes and then trying to call you back. But I was able to be just a good friend in that moment and provide her like an ear to listen.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And and the other thing is like taking time to just have a quiet evening. And sometimes it's going to get disrupted. Like you were happy to give of your quiet time, but like at some point, like quiet is good.
Yeah. It's hard for us sometimes. 3 2s, 2 3s.
Yeah.
Is this good? Like, I don't know, but it is good. You're right. You have to get to know yourself too. And that's when you do it in those moments of like solitude. Like, okay, I really enjoy just making dinner, having a glass of wine and watching my TV show. And that's okay for me to take that time to do that for myself. That would be the way I would be spending my night with no plans.
Yes. Yeah. But same. Mine just might be a hard seltzer instead. Cause I'm so horrible at like opening bottles of wine. I don't know. I end up dumping them out because I don't finish them, but I don't know. One of these days I'll get back to all of the wine that's just sitting there waiting for me to drink it.
I'll come up for a fun weekend.
Okay. Yes.
We can talk business and then we can open a bottle of wine.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Cause somebody's going to have to help me out with, I buy it and then I don't drink it. And I have a favorite winery even, and that's the only place I buy wine from, and it's still sitting there. I put a bottle of white in my, are you white or red?
I'm both. I love wine. So I'll do different seasons. Like right now I'm in the red. Yeah.
Okay.
In the summer I'm more a white.
Okay. Well, I have a what is it? I think I have a naked Pinot Grigio in my
Oh, I love Pinot Grigio.
fridge. Yeah. So it's been chilling for 2 weeks. It's probably adequately cold and could be consumed.
I was just thinking, I'm like, wow, a glass of wine kind of sounds good right now. I'm like, oh, it's 8:23 a.m. So
Well,
maybe not.
I mean, if football's starting at 4, I feel like it just kind of moves up the timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know we've kind of touched on this in different ways. Actually, like I look at the list of everything that we've kind of touched on so much of this stuff, but I kind of want to like dig into it just a little bit more. But as you're developing in your career, and I'm sure you have like these, like I don't know, I guess we'll get into what the future holds or what your future goals are. But when you look at just, you know, the leaders that you've had around you, the amazing women that are in the industry already, just really kind of breaking those barriers, you know, punching through the glass ceiling and all of that kind of stuff. What do you think is missing in terms of trying to continue moving more women into those leadership positions?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just time because, like you've alluded to, your generation is really shifting the women focus. Like the women before your generation have had to claw their way to the top, have really been like, this is like you said, my success. I had to do this. You need to do this too. And every single woman that I've talked to, yourself included, the last few months has said, hey, no, we want to change that. Like we're willing to help you. And all of you have been so supportive. And so I think that you guys have really started that shift, and that's just going to have to trickle down. So I think with time we'll see things get better. I think also men are becoming more aware of like the need for the woman and the diversity seat at the table. So I think that's changed a lot, and that's something that I'm really excited to see. I got on the call with the Bold Penguin sales team, and I'm the only woman, and I'm the only person that is diverse in terms of race, and I'm younger by 5 to 10 years at minimum. So that was interesting to see, to get on that Zoom call. It was like, whoa, we have a lot of work to do still. And it makes me just want to grab 6 other women my age and say, let's do this together. Instead of me getting to the top and then having to like reach down, I want to like pick women up next to me and like go get it together. But I do see that, like I said, men are seeing the need more. Like my new boss, his name's Dave. He's awesome. And we've already had great conversations, and I know he wants me to succeed just as much as I do. And I feel that. I feel no animosity or ill will because I'm a woman. So that's really exciting to see. And he's actually provided a lot of verbal affirmation, which is something I've seen male bosses struggle with. So he seems super like emotionally intelligent, and I'm really excited to learn from him. And I know he will also have that attitude of like, we are a team and we will succeed together. So yeah, I think that just time and more people like you all having that shift in perspective and understanding that we have to support each other, because, and I think that there's something to be said too, though. Like we have to work hard too. Like I can't just be like, hey, Olivia, can you just get me a job and then, make sure I'm successful? Like that's not going to work. But I think because women are so emotionally intelligent, you guys see things in people. Like we have this intuition as women,
Right.
and you all see that in me. Like, hey, she wants to be a leader. She's willing to put in the work. So she's willing to invest in. So I think women are just more strategic and in nature a lot of times, and intentional, and that intuition is real. So I think that helps in that bridging that gap in terms of like bringing along women that have that drive to succeed.
Yeah. And I think like, as you say that, I think it's like, I will say this, and I think it will be, I don't know, it's one of the most important lessons that I feel like I've learned is just like, listen to that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Like if something feels off, explore that. Don't discount it. Figure out, like, you might resolve it very easily, or it might take time, but like doing something when your intuition is like, especially when like those alarm bells start to go off and you're like, something is just really off here. Don't assume that it's like, oh, I'm just being a woman. I told myself this for so long, like, oh, I'm just being a girl about this. And our intuition is a real thing. It serves a purpose. not only in like the whole fight and flight and, as a defense mechanism, especially when you become a mom, I feel like it becomes so much stronger. It's just crazy. But like you have to listen to that. And there have been times, like I just had a situation a couple of weeks ago where I was like, something feels off here. And it has nothing to do with work, but it was a personal situation. And I was like, I just, you know what, I'm gonna find the answer to this. And so I felt a little guilty about what step it was going to take in order to get the answer. But as soon as I called this person, I was like, I just need to talk about this thing. They were like, I am so glad you called. And, like, let me provide some clarification for you. And then you can make an informed decision about what you need to do next. And she was just so loving and just gracious in that conversation, and even texted afterwards and said, I am glad you followed your mother's intuition and that you called me and that we talked about it. Whatever you choose to do from here, just know that you have 100% of my support. And so it's like, I could have just agonized over it, but now I don't have to. And so it's like that intuition that we have is so, so critical. It is like it's kind of like that portal to a lot of different things that I think we probably just need to explore on a deeper level.
Yeah, agreed. And it's funny hearing you and in your experiences tap in and really trust your intuition. And that's something I think my generation is developing, right? Like in your early 20s, you're like, what is this thing that's inside me that's telling me what's the right decision is, or making me uncomfortable about something, and really tapping into that. And I would say that's something that I see a lot in my friend group right now, whether it be like in relationships or in their job choices, like this battling with this feeling that they have, but they really do know, and their intuition is telling them one thing, and it's like, trust that, like go with that. It's not going to lead you astray.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just so wonderful, Kaylee. I feel like we're just like hanging out. This is just amazing. I love it. I love it.
Really, what a great way to start our Monday. I'm like ready. I'm like pumped up for the week, like ready to go.
This is so wonderful. So if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, whether it was like at the beginning of your career or throughout your education leading up to now, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah. So I feel like it kind of goes back to the saying no thing, but just get to know yourself and let other people's opinions be that, like theirs, and not affect you. So I think it's really easy as a 3, like I want to achieve in everything. I want to achieve in my social circle. I want to achieve in my job, in my relationships. And so I can start to mold and be who I think other people want me to be. And it's like a slippery slope, and you don't even realize it. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, man, who am I and what's important to me? So I experienced that in college. Like I was people pleasing a lot, and I had to take a step back and realize like I had sort of lost myself, and I had to answer the questions like, what do I value? What do I want to be doing with my time? Like, why am I in this organization because I want to be, or because I want and I care what everyone thinks about me? And the thing is, when you build yourself up on this, pile of other people's opinions, it really is a pile. And one person says something negative and it like crushes your whole world. And, the whole pile turns to rubble, and it's really a dangerous place to be. So you have to find out. I just would tell myself, continue to explore you and love yourself, because it's so true. Before you can love other people well, before you can love your clients, and I'm saying love, serve your clients well, before you can put yourself out there for other people, you have to love yourself first and pour into yourself first.
Oh my God. Like, I know that you've mentioned I've had so many goosebump moments during this. It's like, it's just crazy. Like, this is all stuff like I'm discovering it in my 30s that I wish I had known myself better in my 20s. Like life would be different, and I wouldn't give any of it back, but life would be different. So I love that. Have you read More Myself by Alicia Keys?
No, but I love her. So I'm happy to add that. I'm going to have you shoot me an email with these book.
Yes, I will.
That's what she said in this one.
For one, she's like the most insightful human being on the planet. And she's so deep and thoughtful, but she does talk about those subtle shifts where we just kind of start to, we lose track of who we are. And then you look back and you're like, how did that happen? But it was incremental. There wasn't ever like one big thing that happened. Very few of us experience like one thing that completely changes us. these little subtle shifts that happen over time. So you will love the book. I will definitely make sure that we'll put it in the show notes, and I'll make sure that you get reminded of that title as well. I could reread that. I actually listened to it, but I could read it and just get twice as much out of it, I'm sure, as I did from the first listen. So yeah, she's tremendous. So when you look at like your goals and obviously like this shift with Bold Penguin is going to open some new opportunities for you, but like what does the future hold? Do you have like an ideal career path in mind, or are you kind of open to the process at this point?
I feel like I'm really open to the process, which is good for me because I am such a planner. Like if I could have my whole life planned out, I would in a second. Like my friends are kind of like, think I'm a little bit of a psycho, but they also know that we get things done or we hang out because Kaylee's going to make sure we get it on the calendar. So it's really a cool, like relieving feeling to be open to the process. And I think I have to be, right? Like look at this acquisition that was not expected, and it has done nothing but open doors. And when I look at the beginning of my career, I thought I was going to be locked in for 40 years and retire, however long you work. I don't even know. 40 years? How long do you normally work? I think that's
something
like
that.
I don't even know. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
But the point is, I've always felt like, I thought I was going to be there forever. And now I've really allowed myself to have the flexibility and trust the process. And I just finished this book called Perfectly Yourself. It's a really good book. And he talks about like, show me your character and I'll show you your destiny. And he addresses people like me who are constantly worried about the future. And he's like, hey, what's the point? Like, focus on making the next right decision and developing your character, and I will show you what your future looks like. And I think that's reigned true. And when I look back, even in high school or successes I've had thus far, it is because I just work really hard and I make the right next decision. I try to, not always. And I am committed to being a sponge and to learning and developing as a person. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of that. There are things like practically that I want to work on, like negotiation and, just different things around the sales field that I want to get better at. And then also just personally keep developing. And then also in my relationships and in networking. So that this has been really huge, meeting people like you and other women that have been just tremendous to meet.
Yeah. Well, I think you take these very brave steps. And so I think like give yourself like so much credit for the fact that you just reached out, and it like I did this presentation on networking. I'm like, you just get like the worst that I was going to say to you was no, but you took that risk because no can be like detrimental to somebody. But you were like, she might not respond. She might say no. Like, I'm going to be fine either way.
Yeah.
But
and I've had people say no to me, and it is kind of like, oh, you don't want to meet with me, but it's also like they're protective of their time too, and that's okay, and that's a boundary that they've set, and I have to respect that. And also, I think being intentional with networking, right? Like, I reached out to you because you were vetted very highly by someone else, and they were able to like recommend you. And then also, I've had people do warm introductions, which really help. So they've vetted me too because they're not going to recommend you if I'm not worth meeting with. So it's kind of like this mutual respect all the way around. Like you probably were more apt to take the meeting based on who recommended me.
Yeah.
Because, Sharon's awesome. So it's like, okay, I know Sharon, she wouldn't be telling Kaylee to meet with me because she values my time too. So it's kind of like this circle of we're only going to be recommending highly qualified people who are worth all of our time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just, I love that you're building a network despite a pandemic. Because for me, most of my networking was done in very public events. Like it was conferences, and you can easily see people and shake their hands and get a feel for them. And that's a lot of how we did what we did. And and I don't know if you went to any conferences prior to the pandemic, but you've gracefully made that shift into the online world of creating a network.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm glad you brought it up because that's something that I feel like is so interesting about this pandemic. It's like not weird to ask you like, hey, Olivia, I know you live in Iowa, but can we like get on a Zoom for 30 minutes? One, we were just talking about like a lot of people didn't even know what Zoom was, 7-8 months ago, and let alone like a virtual networking thing that is just weird. And now it's part of our culture. We're doing everything virtually, like weddings are being done virtually, like what in the world? So it's allowed it's opened the gate for more intentional relationships to be built across the industry. And I feel like you're sitting right next to me, like in our conversation. So it's been really fun to meet people like all over the country. And, you never know, why you or how that relationship with someone will blossom into something else. And it's kind of cool to have little people, like if I had a map of the US all over that I know and I am connected to. I should do that. I should start like a
Kaylee,
network.
I have literally said this. Like, I'm like, I could pick anywhere in the US and just like, I would know somebody there. Like, I would just be like, there's an insurance person there. And, if I'm in that town, I will definitely look them up. So it's just, yeah, it's crazy. I feel like you're like echoing part of my brain back to me during this interview. It's so funny. So I know like when we had hopped on our Zoom call, you talked about a little bit about some other projects that you're involved in. So, outside of your specific role, like what other things are you pursuing? Like, what are your other passions?
Yeah. So I'm really passionate about young people, and I still am a young person, but as particularly like the age of high school to college and right out of college. So one thing I'm involved in is in an organization called MDECA, Missouri DECA. So like I said, it's a co-curricular organization where high school students can compete in real life business situations. They write papers, they do presentations, they strategize, and they take tests, and they compete on a national level. And it goes along with what they're learning in their marketing classes. So it really solidifies that learning. So I help train the state officers and put on conferences for the Missouri organization, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think every high school student, when your kids get in high school, Olivia, they should be in DECA. I will tell you more about it when they're at that age. But it shaped me to be who I am. And I was state president when I was in high school, giving speeches in front of like 2,000 people. And it just taught me a lot about presentation and business and how to conduct myself in those small table gatherings, right? Like that's where business decisions happen. And you don't really learn that in college necessarily. And you learn that through DECA. So that's one of my passions. And then also I just like to have fun, so I like to be with my friends and family. And, actually on Saturday, I hung out with a couple of my girlfriends, and I was really stressed. I've been really stressed with what's going on at work and in my life. And they were like, we're just going to go have fun. So we sat on a patio and just like had a couple drinks and listened to music. And it was just so refreshing for my soul to like be with my humans who know me, who I don't have to be on for, and who care about my life. And so it was just such a fun Saturday. It was so refreshing. And that's like something that I need. So it was really, really exciting. And then other passions, I'm a nerd. So I love to learn, like we've talked about. So I read a lot of books. I try to read fiction as well as nonfiction. So I'm reading this book called Lilac Girls right now. It's like a historical fiction book. Have you read it? Why are we the same person?
It broke my heart.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sad. I can't wait to read it tonight. Like after the Chiefs game, that's what I'm gonna be doing, is finishing the book. I'm like at part 3. So
God, it's heartbreaking, but and I know it's fiction, but you're like, this really happened in some way. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's such a random book for us to have in common.
I know, it's so random. Yeah, it's so sad, but it's also like there's love stories and like adventure and all the things that my young 24-year-old girl self needs in life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we might be the same person. This is so weird. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now the final question. Are you ready?
Yeah. I kind of may know it because I've listened to your podcast.
Good. Well, good. I'd rather somebody was prepared than just like, I have no idea what to say. But if you were going to play DJ for 5 minutes and you get to pick the song, and eventually I will make a playlist. When you talk to Becky Schroeder, she will inform you that she is like waiting for this playlist to happen. But what song would you choose?
Okay, so I've been marinating on this question probably more than any of the others because it's such a good question. And it's been fun to like hear what your guests say too. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel like honored to be able to answer this question. But I have 2 because I feel like I just couldn't pick one. The first one is Hood Go Crazy by Tech Nine, which is a little different than most guests have said, but it's like hip hop, and it's just a classic song. Like when it comes on, everyone gets so excited because they're like, oh yes, I forgot the song even exists. And it's by Tech Nine, and he references Kansas City. So it's like when he says Kansas City, everyone like gets really excited. And I feel like it would just pump everyone up. And then my second is Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, yes.
Classic. I mean, you can't beat it. It makes everyone happy. I always end up like on a chair dancing when the song comes on because it's so good. So yeah, those are my two. Very
Yeah.
different genres.
Very different, but I love it. I think it's so funny because I feel like there was a time in my life when I would look at people and be like, I bet I know what kind of music they listen to. And now like the responses I've gotten from people, I'm like, nope, I have no
Yeah.
idea what kind of music speaks to people. And Sid and I had this conversation over the weekend. She's like, this is the most random playlist. I'm like, my brain just listens to random music. Like it speaks to me at different times in different ways. So I
That's the
fully
best,
support
though.
the diversity of these two songs. They're definitely very different.
You have to have like a wide variety of songs. Like it's just like you can't, I mean, if my playlist or my library is like country, hip hop, rap, R&B, like soul, alternative, like you have to have a good mix. And I loved when you were talking about Justin Bieber. So I think that's great. I learned something about you. I'm like, yes, Intentions. That's a bop.
Yes, I just I love Justin Bieber. And it's funny, like a friend of mine was like, he's horrible. And I was like, no, like I think he's trying to get his life together and he's actually a very soulful guy. And maybe he didn't write the song and whoever wrote it, but yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes I'm like, am I too old to listen to Justin Bieber? And then I'm like, oh, I don't think
Definitely
Justin Bieber
not. My
cares.
vote's no. You're young and hip. You can
Yeah.
listen to it.
Yes. But oh my gosh, yeah. I love all types of music. Love it. I love it. So this is exciting. Oh my gosh. This has been amazing, Kaylee. I am so glad that I got to kick off my Monday with you. This is just absolutely tremendous. And I know that your career is going to continue to flourish. Anybody that's listening, like for one, you're going to want to connect with her and you're going to want to keep an eye on her. And I know you have great things ahead of you. And I am just excited that I get to be a part of that journey. And in whatever way that is, I'm very excited for all of the things that you're going to do.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on. It's been so much fun just chatting. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is the best way to start the week off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy the game tonight and we'll catch up soon.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Kaylee.